feeling a bit worried about this year's election because of things that she's heard on the radio, and of course the conversations she's had with her family, and also that some of her friends have had to travel to other places in the country, just because of the concerns that very many Kenyans share. From that, Elizabeth, and we'll be talking about your deal in a few minutes, is there reason really to worry from where you sit?
I wouldn't say there should be a reason to worry, but Kenyans will always be Kenyans, and the Kenyans politicians will always be Kenyans politicians, and they trigger that fright in people because they've been going around the country, they've been up and down throwing words at each other, and today actually in the news I saw in Nakuru, like there are these flyers being thrown out, and people, a certain ethnic group are being told to move out.
All right.
So I think that is what is really bringing that fright.
That fright in people. Wachira Waruhe, thank you very much for joining us here on the show. Let's talk about what I've just asked Elizabeth about that maybe fright that or fear that people have. Is it really warranted?
Well, it's not warranted, but I'm also amused that when I was coming, most of the petrol stations were full. I could see people trying to fill their vehicles.
To fill their vehicles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe they are anticipating that something is going to happen. And the supermarkets also, the shelves, the unga is not there. But I think it is up to the politicians, because I think our politicians have actually failed in terms of assuring the nation that this election will be just like any other election, and it will come and go, and also encourage people to have faith in their institutions.
All right.
Because we've been seeing that the institutions that are charged to organizing and managing and running an election, there's all reasons to think that they are not up to the task.
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting views there. And tonight we had a question that we're asking our viewers about really what their expectations are about these elections. What really are they expecting this election will bring to Kenyans as Kenyans? Because we've heard from the political analysts, very many of them we've had from the politicians. But you as a Kenyan, Elizabeth, what is it that you want this election to deliver for you?
Betty, Kenya is this country that is being run by political class. So sometimes I sit down and think, if I vote, will it deliver to me what I really want? But for me, I just need that change that I've looking for a very long time. So for me, this election, it means so much.
It means so
and
much.
Actually, it is the first time that I also am going to be voting.
It's the first time.
Yeah.
And it's the first time for very many young people.
Yeah.
Wachira. Let's talk about something that she said, what really this election will deliver for her. Do you think that the Kenyan electorate have been educated enough or are aware of the things that they really want? Because we have all this this ideology that Kenyans vote along tribal lines, but aside from that, do you feel that they also are voting with the right reasons in mind?
I think there has been a shortage in terms of delivering civic education to voters, in terms of trying to enlighten them on what an election is all about, what they need to look into in their leaders, whether they can look at the issues that affect them on a daily basis, the basic things like education, health, very basic, the standard of living.
Yes.
If our voters could actually be enlightened in terms of looking at leaders who can help them overcome some of their daily challenges, apart from looking at a leader simply because they are from their own tribe, I think that has not happened. So I wouldn't be surprised that even the upcoming elections, notwithstanding, you will hear people saying that would rather elect a leader who is known to be a thief of public funds, but they say that they are more comfortable with a thief from their ethnic community.
The devil they know.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. Let's go back to what Wachira has just mentioned. The fact that some of us or some Kenyans vote along tribal lines, and back in 2007, I mean the chaos that we saw, the violence that we saw erupt in this country of humongous magnitude affected you as a person, Elizabeth. Maybe you could just give us a brief overview of what happened to you back in 2007.
Actually, at that time, I was very young. I can remember. And I was...
How old were you?
I was 16.
16 years.
And I was coming from my friend's place. I was headed home. And all of a sudden, on 31st, actually, is when the results were announced. And I met this gang of men whereby I was actually beaten and I passed out and I was gang raped, and out of that I got a child. I got Brooklyn out of it. But my turning point came in 2012, sorry, when I met one Jacqueline Mterenamuye, who is the founder of Grace Agenda, whereby at Grace Agenda we like try to give women, and we've been advocating for reparation and justice for survivors of sexual gender-based violence during the post-election period. And in the in the past weeks, we saw the DP coming out and is like rubbishing the TJRC report, and now they're like running up and down, telling people to live in peace. And this is something that they themselves should have done.
Implementing the TJRC.
By implementing the TJRC report.
All right.
And also reparating survivors.
So Liz, have you been able to reconcile with what happened to you? Have you forgiven those people, even as you look forward to, hopefully having the TJRC reports implemented?
I have. Actually, I have, and so many times, I had to find myself. It isn't because of time, but it was a very tough road. I must tell you, but it was a very, very tough road. The decision of keeping the child and everything at that very tender age. I even stopped going to school to become a mother, and that is when I ended up in Mathare. And so when I met with Jackie, she told me to call myself to a council. And I called myself to a council, and I had to find that Liz deep inside there. And that is what we've been trying our best to do with the means that we have at Grace Agenda, to give women a voice, okay, to ask them to come out of the closet. Because, okay, you might go to a counselor to tell them your problems, but sometimes I tend to think like coming out and speaking about it kind of gives you this relief. Because the first time I gave my testimony was at a symposium. And Betty, I must tell you, I felt this kind of relief that came over me
after sharing,
and I just breathed a sigh of relief, and I started like rebuilding the relationship between me and my daughter.
All right.
Yeah.
And now you're okay.
Yeah.
Your relationship, how is it?
I can say it's okay.
It's okay.
Because in the past, like when I'm disappointed with life and everything, I'll just let me use this word. I'll use her as my dustbin. But through the CBO, Grace Agenda, and through Jacqueline, I've been able to rebuild that relationship with her, and to regain that trust. And last year she told me that, Mommy, can I tell you something? And I said, yes, tell me. And she told me, Mommy, I know you love me.
Okay.
And I said, oh, really? And she said, oh, yes, mommy, I knew you always loved me.
You love me.
And
Okay.
I was,
All right. Wow, what a powerful story. Washira, just hearing that, what is the one thing that Kenyans should know and not forget as we head to this election just 3 days away?
I would like to anchor my answer on the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission report. I happen to work for the Truth Commission, and that was between 2010 and 2013. And soon after, I would want Kenyans to remember that the circumstances that brought about the Truth, Justice, Kenya had just come from the brink of destruction or self-destruction. So the reason why it was set up in the first place was to go deeper into the reasons that make Kenyans erupt at a 5-year cycle, you know, when they get an opportunity. Now, our hope was that because it went through a lot of our history, it realized that Kenya is like a wound, is a wounded country. And the purpose of actually forming the Truth Commission was like to press the part which is the festering wound so that we can heal as a country. And unfortunately, since the report was actually submitted to Parliament and to the President, nothing has actually been implemented. And we have seen since then the same reasons, the kind of violence that we've noticed in Baringo, in so many parts of this country. We find that we still have that violence because, one, the issues of marginalization have not been addressed, issues of minorities, issues of discrimination, issues of people who went through the post-election violence, not only the post-election violence of 2007, I deal with people, others
we have
who
to
go
wrap
back.
up.
Yes.
So what really is your message to Kenyans, very briefly?
What I would actually say is not to Kenyans, it's Kenyans in general. One, for the institutions that are in charge of the elections, they have a duty to Kenyans to carry out a free, fair, and credible election. And from that, I think that is where now peace will come. Because
so it comes from
it comes from that, yes. From a credible election, that is when we can realize peace.
Very briefly, Liz, you'll have to come back here on KTN News to give that full account of what happened. But what really would be your parting shot just 3 days to the election with the many Kenyans who are watching you today?
Okay, to Kenyans, I'll tell them that Kenya is our only home. And the moment we destroy Kenya, we are destroying ourselves. Because elections will come and go. But we will remain to be Kenyans, you know. And these politicians, they come. Because the most funniest thing, I don't know, is that Kenyans don't learn. These politicians, you only see them after 5 years. And all those years, they're always gone. So my parting shot to them is that keep calm, keep peace, and also now the ball is on the court to IBC. Now it is up to them to deliver.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much, lady and gentlemen. I've been speaking to Elizabeth Otieno, who really has been sharing her story, her powerful story about just how she overcame what happened to her, a nasty ordeal back in 2007. And I've also been having Washira Waruhe, who is also somebody who's been working with survivors of the post-election violence back in 2007. All right, so we want to take some spots here, and then we'll get back to Heart the Band. Remember, they started for us the show, and we have to finish with them. They have something special for you tonight. But before then, Neymar took his first steps out onto